of Workplace Harassment on Employee Performance and Wellbeing. She is poised to actually deliver value to us. And I'm sure we are ready as well to learn a lot from her. I'll read her profile very shortly. Okay, so but before we go into today's session, let me read to us the core value. Like I introduced, this is Association of Elite Human Resource Professional. We have certain core values that we call I care. Number one thing is credibility. Demonstrate enviable character. We are people of noble character everywhere we go. There is another authenticity. We are quite authentic. We are so real. We don't lie about whom we are. We come out real and authentic at all times. We are responsible people. We know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. We are very resilient. We are very resilient. We defy all odds. So we go beyond and above. Anytime you call on us, when we are on an assignment, we deliver it to the best of our ability. We don't just give the best, we ensure we deliver value that will last a lifetime. Integrity. We exemplify uncompromised ethical standards. We have empathy. We understand and share our experiences and emotions, and that's what makes us different from every other. Agility, we are nimble solutions. We provide nimble solutions that empowers, and this is whom we are. Our vision statement is to be the go-to source of competent human resource professionals who refine and redefine the practice. So when you're looking for people who are on the go in terms of trend, you can come to AEHRP. We have answers to all questions. Okay, so our mission statement is creating value for human resource professionals and organizations through coaching, mentoring, and research-based learning and capacity development programs. Our cardinal mandate is to bridge the communal gap that exists between human resource professionals of different cadres, and also to serve as a platform for learning capacity development, knowledge acquisition, and experience sharing. So here we are now to the very important part of this session. I'm going to read to us very briefly the profile of Mrs. Abisola Jegede. Mrs. Abisola Jegede, Abisola for a short, is a highly motivated metrics and reporting analyst within the Polaris Bank HR team with over She is so passionate about employee development. Abisola thrives in fostering a high-performance culture. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and is a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. With a rousing welcome, I'd like us to receive the facilitation of Abisola Jegede. Abisola, you have the floor. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for that, Stella. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me, Stella?
Yes, clearly. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm so excited to be here today. I want to especially thank Dr. Michael Ogu for this, for giving me the opportunity to be here today. So without wasting much of our time, we are going to go into the session to discuss the effects of workplace harassment on employee performance and well-being. I'm so sorry, my camera is off. I have issues with my camera. I hope that's okay. All right, so I will be sharing my screen now. Stella, is that fine? Stella, can you hear me?
Yes, please. A moment. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Please kindly share your screen.
Okay. All right. Can everyone confirm they can see my screen? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Masunala. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So the effects of workplace harassment on employee performance and well-being. I think all of us, I'm just going to go with the assumption that we are all salary earners, or we are workers in this group. And it's an understatement to state that when you're going to your office, you want to go somewhere that you feel safe, somewhere that you feel you can perform excellently on the job. You want to be able to do your job without any 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 involvement with toxic behaviors or negative environment. However, there are times when we experience harassment in the workplace, which can impact our performance and our well-being in general. Now, in the age that we live in, it's a very diverse and global workforce, and it's very difficult to ignore workplace harassment. I mean, the current workforce of Gen Zs now, they are so bold, and they are so emboldened to not, I don't know, they've been given so much, there's so much what's the words to use now? There's the internet, there's so much around for us to be able to not speak out when things are happening to us in the workplace. So in this age of social media, Twitter, Instagram, there's so many things going on in the workplace that can be a topic of discussion on the internet. So it's important that we address things like harassment or negative behaviors that would impact our job. Workplace harassment or workplace mistreatment or workplace bullying encompasses any unwelcome behavior, whether verbal or non-verbal, physical or visual, that is based on characteristics like race, gender, religion, age, sexual orientation, disability, or other legally recognized statuses. So basically, workplace harassment is harassment that occurs in the workplace, and it involves unwelcome behavior. Any behavior that maybe your colleague or your line manager or anyone in the office or in your workplace, any behavior that they exhibit that makes you feel uncomfortable, that makes you not productive on the job, that makes you not want to go to the office in the morning. Those are termed workplace harassment or workplace bullying, and it can be from anyone in the workplace. It can be your supervisor, it can be your colleague, it could be external parties, anyone or anything, any behavior that does not make you want to go to the office or that makes you scared to even go to the office. can be termed workplace harassment. Now, there are different types of harassment, and they can be categorized into overt or covert harassment. Now, overt harassment refers to visible and direct aggression towards an employee. So it's a form of harassment that is you cannot deny it. It's something that is intentional, and it's supposed to exert power and control over the victim. People around you can tell that you are being harassed. The perpetrator is not even trying to hide it, probably because they are senior members or senior management, and they know that they can probably get away with that kind of behavior. It occurs in plain sight and can be witnessed by others. Examples include physical harassment, assaults, threats of violence, physical intimidation, blocking or impeding someone's movement. These are forms of harassment. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, I'll just continue. Physical harassment, yes. So threat of violence, somebody clearly threatening you, let me catch you outside, stuff like that. Blocking or impeding, how you're trying to walk into an office and someone is deliberately impeding your movements. Those are termed physical harassment. It could also be assault. Somebody hits you in the office. Let me catch you outside. Yes. There are some people that go as far as saying that in the office. Verbal harassment, insults, threats, name calling. I think there are some organizations that they actually, some people engage in physical fights, name calling, sexual harassment. I think sexual harassment is a form of harassment that is not really talked about, especially in the workplace, but it happens. Yes, verbal is as weighty as physical, definitely. Verbal involves everything except the actual, hand-to-hand combat. Written harassment, offensive or threatening emails, texts or letters, defamatory statements. That's written harassment. Some people go as far as threatening you via email. I think that's even the worst form, because you are literally creating evidence. You are creating a trail of evidence for yourself by sending emails or letters or texts, all of that. And then environmental harassment. All of these forms of harassment really, they can be termed environmental harassment because you are creating a hostile work environment. Could be sabotage, intentionally creating an environment that is negative. Could be sabotage or exclusion, not inviting people that are supposed to be part of a meeting to a meeting just because, you want to shine. That's actually a toxic behavior. So all of those are overt forms of harassment. Now, like I said earlier, overt forms of harassment are, clear. They are intentional. They are meant to exert power and control. So it's clear for everyone. You have witnesses in the events that, the incident is reported. There are witnesses. However, covert or subtle forms of harassment, may not be easily identifiable. They are the kinds of harassment that you have to ask yourself, oh, am I overthinking it? Is this really happening? They are often referred to as microaggressions. It could be non-verbal, it could be verbal, it could be environmental slights, snubs, or insults that convey hostile, derogatory, or negative messages towards targeted individuals or groups. Coverts are usually very subtle. It could be offensive jokes or offensive comments, but when you ask, was that for me? You deny it. It's something that is offensive, but then you play it off as a joke. It involves gaslighting. I think gaslighting is one of the um characteristics of covert harassment. You try to make the victim doubt themselves. Like, is this my reality? You try to make them doubt their reality. Dismissive behavior, unconscious bias, unreasonable work demands. You give somebody a deadline, give somebody a work that they're supposed to submit in 1 hour, when clearly you know that it cannot take 1 hour to finish. Those are other subtle forms of harassment. Those kinds of harassment, you have to build a trail. You have to actively, record, especially if you want to report that kind of thing. You have to take note of these things and provide clear evidence. I don't know if anyone has any questions or contributions at this time. Questions, contributions. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to move to effects of workplace harassment on individuals. Like I said earlier, the workplace is where you want to feel safe. You want to be able to be productive at your job. However, in a situation where you are being harassed, it can pose several risks to the victim, and one of these is health risks. Harassment can cause physical and psychological health problems, including high blood pressure, mood changes, panic attacks, changes in appetite. Now, I think everyone has different ways they react to stress. You could lose your appetite. You will stop eating. You are unable to sleep. You have anxiety, you are depressed. All of these are risks or what the results of being harassed in the workplace, which is not good for an employee. The way I react to stress is I don't eat, I don't have appetite, and I lose weight. And when I feel that happening, I know that I am under some form of stress. Different people react differently to stress. Another thing is the effects on job performance. There's no one that is happy with their job that will not be productive. So due to the mental discomfort brought on by the bullying victims, um, by the bullying, victims frequently exhibit decreased productivity, increased absenteeism, difficulties concentrating. There's no way I want to go to work when I know that the person harassing me is sitting right across from me, or I'm reporting to the person. I just don't want to go to work. I am unable to work. I start having jitters. I can't concentrate. It's definitely going to impact on my job negatively. Social isolation. Harassment can damage relationships with colleagues and isolate individuals. You don't want to talk to your colleagues because you don't even know what the person harassing you has told other people. You just want to be yourself. You want to isolate yourself. Those are effects of harassment. And then loss of self-esteem. It's like a ripple effect. You start having health problems, and then that's impacting your job, and then that's isolating you. And then in the end, you start to lose confidence in yourself. Like, am I actually the right person for this job? What's going on? Meanwhile, it's a ripple effect from somebody harassing you on the job. Those are some of the effects of workplace harassment on individuals. Now let's talk about effects of harassment on organizations. It's not just the victim that is impacted by this. The organization is also impacted by harassment, creates a negative company culture. I think one of the things that an organization should be particular about is the culture. I think there's a saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you have the wrong culture in an organization, I don't think there's any measure you put in place that would work until that culture is corrected. So a negative company culture where you have toxic employees, you don't care about your employees, it's definitely going to impact on the organization. Promote absenteeism. Absenteeism, it will impact on the bottom line because your employees are not coming to work to do their job and you cannot meet with your quota for the month. Reduces productivity, results in costly and possibly embarrassing legal issues for employees that, decide to take up decide to take up their harassment legally. It could be costly and create bad publicity for the company. Additional costs to recruit and train new employees. For employees that resign as a result of harassment, you have to keep recruiting and training new employees. And as an organization, we need to take note of these things, especially when employees are resigning. Why are you resigning? What could we have done better? And it's not just taking note of these things, it's acting on them that is going to make the difference. So if your employees keep resigning, especially in a particular department, the employees keep resigning and they're telling you the same thing. I'm being harassed. My line manager is toxic. Then the company has to do something about it. The employer, poor public image and negative publicity. I mean, in this social media age, we need to be able to create a good public image. However, harassment is not something that gives good publicity. It's your employees that are going to pitch out your company to people outside of the company to even attract and retain talent. So workplace harassment creates bad publicity for the organization. Toxic behaviors and workplace harassment. Now, toxic behavior and harassment can be used, interchangeably. But then while toxic behavior may not always constitute workplace harassment, the two can often overlap and significantly impact the well-being of employees. So toxic behavior is just harmful or destructive behaviors in the workplace that create a hostile or negative environment. Any behavior whatsoever that just creates an environment that you don't want to be in, that creates an environment where it's just negative vibes, then it's a toxic behavior. And characteristics of these include bullying. There's somebody in your office that you're constantly bullying, you're constantly harassing. Then that's a characteristic of toxic behavior. Gaslighting, manipulating someone into doubting their own perceptions or reality. It's like you enter the office, you greet everybody but one person, and it's obvious. That's gaslighting. It's like, why didn't this person greet me? You are manipulating somebody into doubting their own reality. Gossip and rumors, spreading false or malicious information about colleagues. There's bound to be gossip. Anywhere there's a group of people, there's definitely bound to be gossip. But spreading those rumors or information is termed a toxic behavior, especially when it's false. That's a toxic behavior. Sabotage, intentionally hindering or undermining the work of others. Somebody has done a good job, but because you are a toxic person, really, you undermine or you want to take the shine off that person. You undermine the work so that everyone feels like, oh, maybe the person didn't really do all that. That's sabotage, especially when you're in the middle of a discussion with management. Sabotage it plays it's a huge characteristic of a toxic person. And then passive aggressive behavior, indirectly expressing aggression or hostility through subtle actions or behaviors. Yeah, those are characteristics of toxic behavior. Um, how to prevent workplace harassment. Let me pause here again to ask if anyone has a question or a comment.
I would advise that we summarize our questions and try to ask in the chat box.
Okay.
And after the presentation, then we can take all questions.
Okay, I think that's fine then. All
Thank
right.
you.
How to prevent workplace harassment? I think number one should be develop a clear anti-harassment policy. Now, in any organization, whether upcoming or an organization with a large number of people, I think there needs to be a policy that clearly states what harassment is, the prohibited behaviors, the guidelines for reporting incidents. A policy is supposed to be a set of guidelines to guide employees such that they know that this is right and this is not right. So it's clearly stating what constitutes harassment, whether sexual, whether physical, whether verbal, and the ways of reporting incidents in the policy. I think that's the first step in preventing workplace harassment. Number two is promoting a respectable workplace culture. Like I said earlier, culture is very important in any organization, and fostering an environment where all employees are treated with dignity and respect and, are accountable towards one another. Then that's one way to prevent workplace harassment. Another is awareness and training. There has to be constant awareness and training and retraining on the topic of harassment. Provide strategies for addressing harassment and encouraging reporting and support. Employees need to constantly see that the organization is doing something about harassment. The organization is taking steps to avoid harassment. So there needs to be constant training, develop knowledge sharing sessions, write FAQs on how to avoid harassment or what constitutes harassment. Number four is addressing and responding to incidents. We need to be able to, when a victim comes forward, we need to be able to address the problem and respond well. Most times victims are scared, they don't want to come forward, maybe for fear of losing their job, or maybe no one would believe them. We need to be able to create or respond well to incidents of workplace harassment. Then also building a supportive work environment, creating a culture of respect. I said that earlier, open communication, encourage communication. Let people or employees, let them be able to walk into the offices of their line managers or whoever to express themselves, to communicate on whatever is going on with them. Creating a harassment-free culture. I don't think there's any policy or any initiative in an organization that thrives without leadership buy-in. So one of the first ways in creating a harassment-free culture is to get the commitment of leadership. Let employees see that, oh, my MD or my chief of HR is exhibiting behaviors that align with the anti-harassment policy, that align with the company culture, then they are able to emulate such behaviors. So the first step in creating this is, in creating a harassment-free culture, is to get leadership buy-in. And once that is done, then regular training and sensitization, I said that earlier, continuously train employees, educate them on what harassment is, what constitutes harassment, promote bystander intervention. It's not even enough that as an employee has been harassed. If you are a witness to that, you need to be able to speak up, intervene when they witness harassment, because the victim may not be able to talk. They may need support from their colleagues. So we promote bystander intervention such that they are able to report uh, harassment, any form of harassment, open communication channels, ensure confidentiality. Most times, organizations are very terrible when it comes to ensuring confidentiality. And if it is not guaranteed, employees or victims of harassment will not speak up. So we need to be able to ensure that what the employee or what the victim is saying is going to be confidential. None of the blowback is going to fall on the victim. Implement various reporting mechanisms, empower employees to share their experiences with supervisors. In my company, when there's a case of, you want to whistleblow on someone, maybe when it comes to fraud or harassment or whatever, it doesn't go to anyone in the organization. We have a consultant that's, when you whistleblow, it goes to the consultant who is a third party who does not have any ties with the organization, and then they're able to treat that with the utmost confidentiality. I think that's one of the ways by which organizations can ensure that there's confidentiality when it comes to reporting. And then regular feedback and evaluation. Continuously evaluate the effectiveness of the policy and overall workplace culture. A policy is not something that we do and then just forget about it. We have to keep revising it. Usually, some people do 2 years or every year, as the case may be. And then you can use lessons learned from a case of harassment to improve on the policy. Seek feedback from employees through surveys and identify areas of improvement. Supporting victims of workplace harassment. I think I've said all of this, but this is just like a summary. Believe the victim. Listen attentively, validate their feelings, and avoid judgment. If a victim of harassment walks up to you to speak about being harassed, I think the first thing to do is not judge and then listen. Do not try to interject or start asking questions immediately. Just listen to them, validate their feelings. Excuse me. Validate their feelings. Tell them, they are not alone, and just basically listen. Offer support and assistance. Provide emotional support. Help them understand their rights. Assist with documentation. And I think this is one very important thing that we also need to do, especially if you are reporting the incident. You need to be able to tell dates, times, specific details, so you can help with that. If a victim comes to meet you, connect them with resources such as, assistance programs. Sometimes people may want to sue, which is their right, to be honest. Counseling services. Like I said earlier, harassment affects people in different ways. It could affect you mentally. and you might need to seek a counselor. Yes, so that's you offering support and assistance. Take action. Report the incident, follow up, and advocate for change. Help for an organization that does not have policies on harassment. You can help in developing policies to prevent future harassment. Check in with the victim, and basically just follow up with the victim, and create a supportive workplace culture. Promote a culture of respect and inclusivity. Train employees, establish clear reporting procedures, and then take swift action. I think all of these are ways by which we can support victims of workplace harassment. That is the end of my presentation, but I think I have been able to explain how workplace harassment affects employee performance and how we can do our part as HR professionals to ensure that we avoid it in our different companies, providing feedback mechanisms, yes, and taking action, the steps that we can take just to prevent harassment in the workplace. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I mean, what a fantastic session. We really do appreciate your coming. There are questions. There is a particular question asked by Ayomide Fashino.
Okay.
In the chat box. In a
All right.
working environment where colleagues relate and words like "let me catch you outside" is just jokes. If any employee comes in with a different perspective, is the HR expected to change the existing culture or hope for the employee to blend with the norm? Like, for example, very recently in my office, somebody was joking with another colleague, telling a male colleague to touch the breast of a female colleague. It's a creative environment, so I understand why, all sorts of, because I felt like, I mean, why should you use such a
I think that's
no,
asking
that's wrong.
somebody
You
to
don't,
touch.
you know
Yes,
it
I
was a
think
joke.
that's very wrong. I don't. It could have been a joke, but I
Yeah.
think that's very wrong. There are conversations for the workplace, and there are conversations that shouldn't be in the workplace. I think that was a very wrong statement to make. However, they are colleagues, and they probably understand themselves better than an outsider. So, but I mean, it's not a statement to make in a professional environment.
Okay, so but Ayomide is asking,
Yeah.
that what if another HR comes in, and is the person expected to change the existing culture? Maybe that's not the norm where the person is coming from and all, and then the policy that, I mean, using global best practice,
Yes. Okay,
of course,
so
how is it supposed to make the changes?
I think that when you join an organization as a new employee, you also have to survey the environment. You have to observe. It's not that you just go and see that, oh, this is how these people talk, and then I have to change it. You have to, like they say, when in Rome, behave like a Roman. Now, I'm not saying that you should lower your standards for the new organization, but observe, and then observe how they do things in the new workplace before you can then make your deductions. They may have they may exhibit toxic behaviors in the new place. However, you have to observe. It's not that you just go there and be like, oh no, this is not how an HR should behave. We also have to be intelligent or smart in the way we play these things. So yes, my suggestion or my opinion will be that you cannot, one person cannot change a culture. You cannot just go to an organization and say, no, this is not how it should be done, and change. Observe, understand how they do things there, and exhibit behaviors that you want to see in the next person. Your own behavior could change other people.
Wow.
I think that would be my opinion. That's yes.
Oh, thank you so much. That's quite insightful. There is a question in the chat box. How do you draw the line between complimenting the opposite sex and sexual harassment, particularly in our crime? You know.
Okay. How do you draw the line between complimenting? It depends on the compliments. I need an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
A colleague walks in, maybe it's a female colleague, and say, oh, and a male colleague complimenting the female colleague, and who is probably married, that you look sexy today. I mean, just wow, what a fantastic dressing. You look a fantastic dress, you look sexy, or you look something. Does that constitute harassment in the workplace?
Hmm. I think that's very dicey. However, when it comes to what's it called, comments like that, I would say that you cannot or you shouldn't make comments like that with someone that you're not familiar with. Some people take different comments, some people take comments differently. And to be fair, in this age of social media, almost anything constitutes as sexual harassment. In fact, even the things that we did not know were harassment, they can be termed sexual harassment right now. So I think the thing to do is to just be careful, watch how we speak in the workplace. In fact, there are times where I'm in the office and someone is somebody I'm familiar with just comes and holds my hand or puts his head on my shoulder. If for somebody that I'm familiar with, that's okay. For somebody that I'm not, I could term it as, why are you touching me? Why are you leaning on my shoulder? But I think that again, we need to be very careful in the workplace. Ask questions. Ask questions. I think that's very important. These days, I see some movies that, you know, you ask a guy asks a lady, can I touch you? And then consent. Consent is very important in this day and age, you know. So I think we should be able to ask for consent especially in complimenting or in touching, especially if you're not sure whether this could be termed harassment or not. Ask questions. I don't think anyone has gotten you when it comes to asking questions, you can't ask too many questions when it comes to sexual harassment or harassment in general. So I think that will be my response.
That's awesome. Awesome. A lot of time, when do you mind? Do you mind is as simple as, do you mind? You mind me complimenting you, you mind me doing this. That
Yeah,
would go a long
exactly.
way.
It will go a
No,
long way.
yes, I mind. Please don't don't go there. Thank you. There's another question in the top. He said, I think Ayomide is also the person asking, how is an HR supposed to act in a situation where a senior director is giving an employee orders that might be incriminating in a case where it might be risky to the employee's career? How is an HR meant to handle such a situation, especially if the director, is above your own pay grade?
Hmm. How is an HR supposed to act? Okay, so is this happening to HR or to another employee? If it's another employee, then you as HR, I think maybe that's why people are scared of HR, but there's certain power that you have in an organization. And if it is incriminating, then I don't think it's something to be taken lightly.
Yeah.
If it's an increment, if you are giving orders to somebody that is incriminating, if it's incriminating, then it could land you in prison. I think that's what that means, or it could cost you your job. So I don't think that's something to be taken lightly. I think that should be taken to the highest form of management. That would be my suggestion in handling that, because these issues are actually very dicey. And when it comes to especially smaller companies, because I work in a big organization, so it's hard for you to see cases like this. But in smaller companies, you're like, you have to do this, you have to maybe change numbers or do something. I think it's something that HR should take seriously, especially if the employee comes to meet you with this case. It should be taken seriously and should be taken to the highest level of management. It also depends on the culture in the company. If the culture encourages it, then it will be hard to take up the case. But if the culture is one that does not, then it will be easy. You have evidence, and then you take it up with the take it to the highest level of management. I think that would be my opinion on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That answers it actually. Oluwakemi Shodipe is asking, in a workplace where they always give you bad vibes and toxicity everywhere, how do you cope or survive? I think you already answered it during the session. If the
Yes,
culture is not, palatable, you can actually draw the
yes,
line by. Yeah.
yes, please.
If you have any other reaction to that.
Mm. Okay. In an
Then
event, yeah.
Lola also is asking, say in an event where a report of verbal and behavioral abuse um was reported against a line manager to the right authority or channel, but nothing was done. No changes felt from the manager. What can the employee or victim do?
Um,
So,
Honestly, I think I'll be honest there. If your HR does not care enough to um provide or do something when your line manager abuses you, first, I think this opinion will be after you have done all of the things like, getting evidence, reporting with evidence. If after you've done all of those things, you have evidence, you reported, however, they haven't done anything, I don't think you are in the right organization. So that's actually the truth. Because if HR does not care enough about its employees to take their complaints seriously, then I don't think there's anything you can do. That's for Akin.
okay,
So
yes, okay. Thank you so much for that, and a lot of time it trickles from the head, maybe the management.
yes, from
It's something
management
fundamentally
down.
wrong.
So it's not something, HR may not even be able to do anything. And in an organization where HR can't do anything, then I think yeah, it's not the right organization.
Okay. Amos is asking, what punishment is due for an employee who falsely accused another employee of sexual harassment? Uh, uh,
Ah, I wouldn't
this is
know, Amos. I think sexual harassment. Okay, who falsely accused? I don't even think there's a law that accounts for that, to be honest. I don't think so. So it's at the management discretion. I can't tell you what punishment is due. However, falsely accusing someone is huge because it impacts on the person's self-esteem, it impacts on their job. People cannot look at them the same. So I think it's at the organization's discretion. If there's evidence, of course, that it was false, it's at the discretion of the organization.
Okay, thank you. The policies can also answer for all of those, when there are
Yes,
things
true.
occurring in the organization, when you put policies in place,
When
it helps.
you, yes, that's the feedback mechanism, that I
Yeah,
mentioned. You take lessons learned from this case and then improve on your own policy. Yeah.
exactly. Thank you very much. Ayomiku is asking, are there any policy protecting victims who have been harassed when the cases have been reported to the management? Yeah. Ayomiku said, I know of a CEO who harasses his employees. What are to be done in that instances?
Like I think it was Hakim that mentioned it is if your CEO is harassing you, most likely, or especially in the smaller organizations, HR cannot. If HR is unable to do anything, I don't think you're in the right organization. Because if, as a CEO, you are constantly harassing your employees, then why are you in business? So I think that what is to be done as the employee, I cannot tell you what to do, but I don't think you're in the right organization. And are there any policies protecting victims? Like I mentioned also, policies improve over time. So if you can always include lessons learned from one case in your policy. I think that would be my response to that. HR has a really important, a very big role to play when it comes to protecting employees. And if HR is unable to do that, then that's a big problem.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's a lot, Yeah. Uh, Thank you, Toyin. Toyin says reasons why many Nigerians get into trouble when they travel abroad, because what we take for granted here is a big deal, a lot
Yes,
over there in the Western culture. So I think it's always good when we just start doing the right thing from now. You don't take
exactly.
anything for granted.
For
You know,
granted. Ask questions. Ask
on
questions.
some, yeah. All right. Somebody is asking what happens if, I think this question keeps coming. I believe it's a lot. I mean, especially for one-man businesses, small scale businesses.
Yes,
You have a situation where MDs they harasses their employees and they can't even talk.
you can't do
And well,
anything.
sometimes it's even the other way around. Sometimes someone is trying to attract the person, because everybody is always attracted to whoever is the leader, or whether for ulterior motive or for positive reasons. So sometimes when the person had given nuances and given body languages that, oh, I'm available, and then the MD, the so-called MD or CEO saw the note and quickly went for the green light, such an employee may come eventually to say, oh, I was harassed, this and that, you
Yeah.
know, yourself, what's your conduct around this person we're talking about? Were you I mean, are you
Are you
what do we call
exhibiting behaviors
it?
that
Enough
are
to
encouraging it? Yeah, I get.
so it's a lot. And when people are currently consistently harassed, I believe nobody tells anyone. You know what to do. Even if
Yes.
HR comes control it, HR also knows what to do. There is an ethic, there's an ethical standard in human resource that allows you to actually resign if you can't make changes.
If you
Where
can't, true. True.
Motunrayo. Moturayo's question is quite long, but I think we can attend to it. She says, how do you handle an employee who is close to you and has been good to you since onboarding, but you notice sexual harassment, like he hugs you, but tries to rub around your back to your bum area, and you've told him severally, he will stop and continue, and you don't want to be rude to him or report him. How do you handle that? The second question says, how do you handle a CEO who still eats his staff in this century? E.g., says HR should have a thick skin and downplays it. Wow. I think CEOs love security guards, how would you address such a situation? A whole lot is happening out there. This
Yes,
can you
I mean, it's a whole lot. For the first question, you said the employee has told him severally, he'll stop and continue. You don't want to be rude to him or report him. How do you handle that? If you don't want to report, I don't think there's any other thing to do. My advice will be to report, but then don't report without evidence. I understand it's probably good to you because he wants to have or wants to make sexual advances to you. So I think the best thing to do is to report. It may be difficult for you to do, but that's the best way to handle it. Just because somebody has been good to you doesn't give them the right to harass you sexually. So reporting, but my advice would be to create a trail of evidence so that when you report, you have evidence. That will be how I would handle it, to be honest. If you don't want to be rude to him, sometimes how you speak to people also matters. People, I don't know, this day and age, like they say, some generations are not keen on consent. They think it's okay to take things, even when you're saying no, no means yes. So if you have told him severally, you were firm while you were telling him that you need this to stop, but he still continues, then please get your evidence, create a trail, and then report the case. If not, he will not stop. He will not. Number two, how do you handle a CEO who still hits his staff? Honestly, you have to, what's the word? It's not, this has to be a small company with this question. I don't think an organization with a large number of staff will do this. But as HR, you should be able to have a conversation with the CEO. Let him know that it's not okay to make such like, why are you even slapping anyone, not to talk of someone that works for you? So it's not okay. It's but as the CEO, I don't know if HR has the impact needed to make the CEO stop in that organization. If HR does, then the CEO will stop. If you have such huge impact, if you do not, the CEO will not stop. Honestly, I don't even know how to answer this because I'm
Um,
surprised that people are still slapping their security guards in this day and age.
it happens a lot, and
Appalling.
we are in an environment where, just because of the fact that you want to put food on the table, you just cannot complain. But
Yes.
nevertheless, you keep improving yourself, keep improving yourself, keep an open mind, also network and network and network, so that things can, you can get a good job and then leave that kind of toxic environment. I think that should be an advice that I would personally want to give to whoever is, going through such situation. Um, my apologies. Someone has been raising and Olushola Oyeniran. I would call you very shortly, but just before then, in life, Edolo. I want to believe I was able to pronounce it when in Lifa Edolo. Please, my apologies. I couldn't, I didn't call out your name when I read your question. Okay, so I hope I'm forgiven. Thank you so much. So you may speak now. Oyeniro Olushola.
All right, good evening, everyone. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, it's clearly.
All right, thank you. Such a wonderful section tonight. So, but I actually lowered my hand earlier because it seems my question has been asked partially and it has been answered. My initial question was that what do you do as an HR to harassment reports coming from ESCOs, leaders, sort of management, senior roles, and the person reporting them younger staffs and the likes. As an HR, what do you think you can do, especially when this issue has even started before you joined the company? That's one. And then secondly, I'd like to ask, in a situation whereby the staff came to report that he or she's been harassed, and the harassment is that the person is asking him or her out, right? Like you're seducing, like a female staff seducing the male staff, like a male staff choking a female staff for dating and for love relationships. As HR, what do you do? How do you step in such situation? Thank you.
Okay. So for the second question, I think the best thing to do is to have a policy that addresses all of this. It's not a case by case basis. You have a policy that states that this is what happens if you are being harassed, or this is what constitutes harassment. These are the things to do, or this is so. Like if there's a policy, then the person that is choking. When you said choking, I hope you didn't mean like physical choking. It's just putting pressure on
No,
the
just
opposite.
literally like it's just putting pressure. No, no,
Yes,
physical
okay.
at all.
So putting pressure on the opposite sex, asking for a relationship. So if you have a policy that addresses all this, I think that will sort that out. You can, again, when it comes to harassment, have your evidence, create a trail of evidence, and make sure that this is reported to HR or to the right person or right department. So a policy would sort out that one. Just have a policy. The first question where you said if senior management are the ones harassing younger management, that's dicey. But then again, a policy should be the first thing you put in place. Also, if I think when you have a policy and then you, what's the word? You call in these senior members. Again, it depends on the power or the influence that HR has. You said that this has been happening way before you joined the company. And in that case, it may be something that HR cannot do anything about. And if you are in an organization where HR can't do anything about your problem, you are not in the right organization. If your senior management, your board, you mentioned board and ESCOs are the ones harassing the younger members of the company, then I don't think HR has power. So there may be nothing that can be done except leave the organization. That's the simple truth. I don't know if that answers your question. Olushola. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, please. Olushola, I hope she answered your question. All right, I think we should just, can we go ahead? Olushola, does that answer your question?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
All right. Please, before we continue, I'd like to let us know that this session has been approved for 3 general recertification units at HRCI. To get your certificate of attendance, you need to click that link in the chat room now and fill the form. Please make a payment of 4,000 Naira within 48 hours. Please kindly, if you know you need a certificate, please kindly click the form now and then fill it to be enlisted for certificates. I think you'll make a payment of 4,000 Naira. Let it be within 48 hours, as you know, later payment may not be be relevant. Thank you so much once again, Abisola. We have quite a number of questions, but we can just, very quickly touch on them. One particular question that I think attracted my attention is that of HR being harassed, and then the management is saying HR should develop a thick skin and downplays the complaints. I think Oluwatoyin already answers that. CIPM Code of Conduct number 4 would actually address that. If you're being harassed, either physically, you are being harassed on your job, please, you can excuse the organization. Please excuse the. It's just it's just one of the code of ethics. If you are being harassed and it's against your wish, I don't think you should stay in such an organization. Olushola, thank you for saying that. It's also important to create boundaries intentionally and stop accepting that person's gift of goodness. I think that answers the question of the person who keeps coming with gifts and, rubbing the back of the employee.
Yes.
Yeah. So another Chima Emeka Duru says, in a case where a line manager harasses his subordinate and the subordinate do not have evidence to go above him to report effectively, is the use of private recording as evidence of act professional to use?
Yes.
Yes,
Recording
it is.
It is. It's an evidence. So that can be used against the line manager. In fact, in my former organization, there was a case of sexual harassment where it was a recording that was used. The guy was a senior member of staff, and it was a phone recording that was used, and it was sacked. So yes, that is an evidence. That's a form of evidence.
Okay. Yelaifa Edolo is asking, is HR able to report to the board if it's senior management or board member that is doing this harassment?
Is HR able to what?
Report, a senior management staff is doing an harassment, maybe to HR or to any other member of staff. Would the HR be able to report to the board?
Again, it all depends on the policy that you have. You should have a reporting policy, or not a reporting policy, a reporting line such that, if you report, if this case gets to this particular level and nothing happens, then you can take it up to the next level and the next level. So all of this should be stated in the policy. That's why a policy is very important for all of these things. Clearly states that if this is what happens, then this is what should happen next. So having a harassment policy, it solves like half of the problems. And then it also depends on the organization that you work in. Do they respect their employees? Do they respect people enough to take up cases of harassment?
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Ayomide Fashional says, right now in the HR world globally, is there a policy that says colleagues can't date each other in the office? As an HR, are you allowed to put up a rule like that? I think
No,
the
I
same.
think, I think that's company specific. It's not a policy anyway. That I know of, there's no policy that says you cannot date. Most of the time, it's that a married couple cannot work in the same organization. But it's not like a policy. It's just something that is on their what's it called? It's just something that is part of what you are supposed to do and not do in an organization. There's no policy that says you cannot date. However, there's a married couple cannot work in the same organization. At least for my own organization, that's what happens. But there's no policy that says you can't date.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, there's no no law saying that the policy cannot. So the policy keep evolving. You keep reenacting one after the other. Review the existing policy to suit the exact culture or exact trend
Yes.
that you're in your organization. Temitope Akimbileje, I want to believe we have addressed this question. I want to believe we've done that. HR doesn't feel the situation is addressed appropriately by the management and doesn't feel protected by the company from retaliation by employees. HR should just take a bow and move on. I think that should be the next thing to be done. If policies are not regarded in an organization, I believe that, and HR has done our best or his best, I think HR should then, move on in career. Morolake Adekoya. Evidence in any form goes a long way as long as it is a form of harassment. Thank you so much. Damilola Olatokun, thank you, Madam Bisola, for your session. What if the person is unable to follow the code of conduct despite being harassed? What if the person is pressed, is the breadwinner, cannot leave the job now? She goes further to say, in situations where the harassed employee is the sole provider in his or her family, what are the other measures that can be taken to address the harassment?
So, I'm assuming that's when all options have been exhausted in trying to bring the perpetrator to justice. I don't think there's anything you can do. So it's either you leave or you continue with the job. And continuing with the job means that you have to continue. You'll be on the receiving end of the harassment. There's really nothing that can be done, especially if HR cannot handle the situation.
Wow. It's a very pathetic one, but
It's really pathetic, to be honest. It is. If HR, I keep saying, if HR is unable to do anything, I don't know, especially if, it's management that is doing the harassment. For your sanity, for your mental health, I would advise you leave. But then again, that's just my opinion. When the person is the sole provider, that's huge.
I just want to add that just begin your exit plan it solidly, reach out to people. I'm sure a lot of coaches and mentors there, they have listening ear, and they are sponsors. There are a lot, there are values and standards that you cannot compromise. And if saying no to sexual harassment is one of them, I think you should just be more proactive about dealing with it, even though you are a breadwinner in your family. I
Yes.
believe no is not a sign of weakness.
No, it's definitely not a sign of weakness.
Someone say, thank you. All right, go ahead, please.
No, please, I'm done. Just go ahead.
Okay, so Tony said having the policy is one critical step. Having an organization that respects the policy is more critical. Some organizations allow married couples, but not reporting to one another or in same units. I see that is getting popular these days. Organization now allows for people to be married in the organization, boyfriend, girlfriend, you can actually date yourself. Some organizations now permit that.
Yeah.
She advised that the person should plan her exit or his exit. Don't quit without an option. No. That's a critical advice. Thank you so much, Toyi. God bless you. Ayomide Fashino. It's been quite an engaging session. But in this T-Pain era, I really don't understand. Sorry, the bowing out of jobs the minute it gets uncomfortable. Is that an advice HR should give employees where policies are not regarded? Also, if you bow out as the HR, what then will be the fate of the employees left at the organization? Wow.
If you are, I think that first of all, you have to prioritize yourself over other people. So if you are barring out based off of harassment, you are putting your mental health first. You are putting yourself first, which is what it should be. So other people may not be experiencing or going through what you're going through. So it's best to put yourself first. Is that an advice HR should give employees? There's only so much that you can do as HR. You can create the policies, like you said, but then if you don't get management buying, if they're not committed to it, then it's not going to work. It's really not. That would be my advice on that.
Thank you, Bisola. Thank you, Chima. Chima said, but one can always have an exit plan and start looking for another job, even if you are the sole breadwinner now. Being a sole breadwinner and changing jobs are not mutually exclusive. Thank you so much. That's absolutely correct. Please, attendance forms are not, attendance is being captured already. It's being captured. So long as you are in this session, attendance is being captured already. But if you need a certificate for this session, kindly fill that form that was shared by Olushola. Please fill the form and get registered for a certificate. Yes, I just, oh. All right, thank you. I think, okay, so thank you so much for sharing the link. Please fill the form to get your certificate. It will cost you a sum of 4,000 naira. So, Stephen, thank you. If HR is unable to solve harassment in the workplace, is it advisable for the victim to involve the police? Wow, this is.
I think that HR should be the first point of when it comes to harassment. HR should be the first level of reporting. Because if you are an employer and then all of a sudden you see police in your organization, it's just, I'm thinking from the employer's perspective now, especially if the harassment happened in the workplace. Yes, I think HR should be the first point of, HR should know, and then you can, it's to be honest, it's your right to involve the police. Especially if it is a criminal offense, if it's sexual harassment or assault, it's definitely your right to involve the police. But just for HR, again, it's all a policy thing, but just so that the organization is aware that this happened, I think HR should be aware.
Thank you so much. We'll be wrapping up very shortly. Thank you, Toyin. CIPM has an insurance policy for cases like when you lose your jobs on reasons like this. Now, this is a very expensive information. I think more further information should be sought maybe on the CIPM website, or Toyin can give us more exposition on how people can benefit from this kind of insurance policy. Thank you so much. Fine wine to everyone. Please link to the WhatsApp group. Okay, so there is a procedure for joining the association. Link for, if Toyin has it, Toyin can drop the link for joining. There is a procedure. I think you have to attend at least 3 learning sessions, and then get to fill the form and follow the process thereafter. Thank you, Barbara, for your. After this, we are no longer taking questions. I will take Barbara Ase last. She said, I once worked in an organization where a staff member was harassed. A senior management staff kissed her, but she begged me not to report. What would I have done differently?
The answer is nothing. If
Nothing.
the victim says, do not report, if the victim begs you, you can't be crying more than the bereaved. You have to respect their decision, because it could be that you would report and then she would deny everything. You are the one that will look like a fool in the end. So there is nothing you could have done differently. As a bystander, you can only report when the victim says, I want to proceed with this. the victim has to want to report the incident. If she says no, then you hold back.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the insightful and awesome session. We appreciate you deeply on behalf of the Management Committee and the entire members of AEHRP. We want to say thank you for coming. We really do appreciate you, and we think we would really like to have you back. You know, maybe when we call you, we hope you would be able to your time like this. Thank you. Please let
Yes,
me make a brief
that'll be
announcement.
okay.
There are special programs that we have. The membership form had been shared. Please kindly fill if you are new on this call and you want to join the AHRP train. Please kindly fill the form. Orbite Spotlight is on Thursdays. We hold it on Thursdays by 7 p.m. Orbite Fun Corner on Fridays as well. The Orbite Fun Corner has games, we have prizes, fun, a lot of excitement. You know, it's at every Friday by 6 p.m. And then we also have our learning schedule for the month, for the rest of the month. We have special learning session on the 30th of November. The topic is designing and implementing an effective talent management framework to drive business outcome. And then on 7th of December, we have Moments with the Coach. This is going to be epic. Mark your calendar and please attend accordingly. The last announcement will be for the CSR project that is ongoing for members. So we are calling for gifts, items that could be donated. You can donate money, hampers, provisions, food items, gift vouchers, and lots more. You know, this is the flyer is on the platform, and we keep resharing it. Unfortunately, I can't share the flyer right now, but the CSR units, they are calling for a lot of gifts so that we can share with members. It's a season of love and gifts, and it's good to give, and givers never lack. All right, thank you so very much.
Thank you.